All right, class. How are you doing? So I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm about ready to upload the lab for tomorrow's lab. And because we're not meeting in person, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I just wanted to give you a quick little Excel tutorial because with this lab, instead of using the geophysical software, I've kind of reformatted it for you to do in Excel. So I'm just going to show you some of these tips and tricks that you're going to use in the lab on a downloaded sample real world relevant data set. So I just wanted to let you know, I just went to the World Health Organization website and I downloaded their report number 61, which was valid for yesterday. And within this report, it has a bunch of tables with, the total confirmed cases, total deaths, total new deaths, etc. All the stuff that you've been seeing in the media. I've used Adobe Acrobat to read it into Excel, and so we have this table now in Excel. And really the whole point of today is to just go over some of these basic sorting, plotting things that you're going to need for the lab with a relevant data set. And I picked this one is because it's relevant today, but also because everybody's plotting these things on log scales, and for the lab you'll need to plot things on the log scale. So we'll see how this goes. So essentially I have this table. One of the first things you'll have to do for your lab is sort columns. Now keep in mind, I'm working on a Mac. You'll probably be working on a Windows machine, so your menus will be up here. Mine actually end up being up here in my upper left-hand side of the screen. But in Excel, all of the commands should be the same. They just might be located in a slightly different spot, so just take some time to find them. So one of the first things that we'll do in lab is to try and filter data. Well, actually, you'll have to do calculations. And so, for example, to do formulas in Excel, you go ahead and click a cell and you put the sign equals. So if you put in equals, that tells you it's going to be doing some kind of formula. So for example, let's just do this column times this column. You would click this column, it would put F2, you can hit times, and then you can click this column and hit enter. Now, if you wanted to copy this cell, you see how this has a little square in the bottom. If you grab the square and pull it down, it'll actually just copy that formula, and Excel is smart enough to know to copy left and right. If you double click this little thing in the right hand corner, it'll actually fill it down for the entire table or anytime you have values. So in the lab, you'll be dealing with something with about 1,100 rows, so that'll be a really nifty trick. But you'll see if you double click here, it'll show you the formula and it'll highlight what the math it actually did. That makes any sense. So you can actually get pretty complicated with this. You can do average is a good one. So we can average across these things like this, and that'll give us the average of this column. We can then take the standard deviation of that, of those columns as well. And this, because we have a big 81,000 and a little number, this should be quite large. And then you can take this thing and of course you can multiply it, down through all of the rows. Now, the other thing is that I have you do is I want to only carry 2 or 3 decimal points, so you can kind of select a column and see how we have decimal points that are out to like 10. There's this little tool here. What's it called? Decrease decimal, increase decimal. Oftentimes, we don't want to show any decimals, or we only want to show 1, and that'll keep everything consistent. So that's a really important tool as you copy and paste and work through the lab. The other really interesting thing with Excel is if you highlight things and you press delete, not backspace, delete, it will delete the values out of the cells that you have. But let's Control Z that and put this back. But let's say I actually just want to, let's put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here, and let's say I want to delete these columns and shift everything to the right. You actually have to right click and then delete, and then it'll give you the options to shift cells left or shift cells right. So for example, to delete columns and spaces, you have to right click and delete. To delete values, you just use the delete key on your keyboard. So so you'll have formulas that you'll need to do. So that starts with the equal signs. Make sure you copy and paste. So when I say copy and paste the formula in there for the first row, it would be this one times this one divided by this one maybe. And that's going to give us a really small number. This is the formula that I want pasted into the Word document. So you would copy this, and then you would show it would be on the row, right? And then you would copy and paste this into your Word document. So it would be something like this: F2, G2, C2. This helps me grade. It helps me know exactly what you did in the Excel sheet alongside turning your Excel sheet in. Okay, so what we're going to do for this exercise is very similar to kind of what we're going to do with the lab, obviously with different numbers. So the first big thing we're going to do, you'll calculate the apparent resistivities using those formulas. You'll have to program them from the actual formulas you've seen. But what we're going to do is sort. So this is a big one. So we're going to select everything here, and let's just sort the countries by the total number of deaths. So if you go ahead and highlight everything, because these have what they call a header file on them, they have labels on the top cells. You can go up to data sort, and this little value will pop up. The other thing you can do in Excel that's both on Mac and Windows is it's here, sort and filter. And if you go to custom sort, you'll get this same window. Now, because we have header files, we can sort by these different columns. Right now, obviously it didn't pull up the header files, but let's say we want to sort by column F, because that's the total number of deaths, and we actually want to put this largest to smallest. And so what it'll do, we're getting an error. All right, let's see. Let's just try highlighting this without the header field. Data sort, custom sort, sort by column F. All the columns need to be the same size. All right, let's pause the video. All right, I'm gonna pick up here in just a second once I figure this out. Pause. Okay, welcome back. Sorry, so there was a problem. You won't have this problem with your lab because I've made sure that that's the case. We essentially had some merged cells in here, probably from the formatting of going from the PDF to Excel. Okay, but anyway, to pick up back where we were, we've got all these list of countries. We've got the, all these stats that they have. So what we want to do is we want to actually sort by the countries with the highest total deaths. So we're going to go ahead and highlight everything like so. And then we'll go to this sort option, custom sort, and the one that we want to sort by is column D. So we're going to select column D. We're going to go largest to smallest. Okay, and then it sorts. Now, keep in mind it's very important to highlight everything, not just a single column, because as you highlight everything, it'll actually move all of the rows together. So we can now see, of course, in the news, the three countries that are constantly in the news. Now, let's just arbitrarily, because you're going to be filtering data, right? You'll be picking values that are less than something or certain or greater than something. So essentially, let's filter out all of the countries that have less than 100 deaths reported. So we can then go ahead and select, notice I selected the entire row for Germany and below, and we're going to go ahead and select all the way down to 157. And now if I just hit delete, it will keep all of the formatting in the rows. That's not what we want to do. We want to go ahead and right click, delete, and it'll clear everything. And so now we're left with this table of essentially 9 different countries. All right, so we can do the same thing. I'm going to just undo this, but let's say we wanted to keep all the countries with deaths less than 100. We could go ahead and sort, filter sort. We can once again filter by column D. We can go smallest to largest this time, and we can essentially keep all the countries with 0 deaths, which will be a lot less. So we would highlight from 90 to whatever, and then delete, right? Something like that. Okay, but anyway, we'll go back to the countries with the most. So once again, we got to select everything like so. We're going to sort by column E. We want largest to smallest. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to kill everything below 100 deaths. All right, so once again, we'll go ahead and delete this. Okay, so we can go ahead and save this. Now, one of the things you'll have to do in this lab is you'll have to plot some things. So let's do this infamous plot that you probably see all the time on the news. We'll plot the total number of cases. We don't have the date since the first onset. I wonder if it wasn't in here. Anyway, so we can't make the plot like I wanted to, but let's just hold on. I'm gonna pause really quick because I gotta find a relationship to pause to plot against. Pause. All right, so we're not going to be able to build the infamous plot because I would have had to download a lot of reports and backtrack and look up all the dates that they were. But let's just go ahead and look at essentially the total confirmed cases versus the total number of deaths. Essentially what I want to show you is how to put something on the log scale and how to create an XY plot. So you can go ahead and click any kind of empty cell. We're going to go to Insert Data Scatter Plot. You can add lines if you want, but we can do that all later. So we can just click one. It's important that you do XY, so if you hover over your mouse, it'll show you XY scatter. We'll go ahead and hit a scatter. We can right click, and then we're gonna hit right click and select data. So this is the important spot. Now what you have to do is you'll notice we can add things. So these will be the legends. So we'll go ahead in here and we'll add something and we'll call this confirmed cases versus deaths, something like that, and we can hit X values here, and so this is what's going to go on the X values. So we'll go ahead and put the total confirmed cases on the X values and the total deaths on the Y. Okay, now you'll see something like this. Now what you'll want to do is you'll want to add labels. So if you go ahead and go to chart design, add chart element, primary, we want axis titles on the vertical, we want axis titles on the horizontal. You can go ahead and double click these. They're just little text boxes. So this is total confirmed cases. And then this is total deaths. That's just the things up in the corner right there, right? Now, one of the things you'll see, this is one of the reasons I picked this data set, is because I'm asking you to plot apparent resistivities on a log scale. And you'll notice that this axis goes from 0 to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. This is spanning a really, really large order of magnitude. So to switch things over, you can go ahead and click this axis. If you don't have this window up, you can right click it. So now it's selected and go to Format Axes, and you'll get this over here where you can actually change the values of what you want. But there's this really cool thing called logarithmic scale here. And now you'll see. So here's a logarithmic scale. You'll probably want to put some tick marks on it, put a minor type on the inside. And just so you know how to read these, 1 is of course 1. This is oftentimes written as 0 because 10 to the 0 is 1. Oftentimes you'll see this as 2 because 10 to the 2 or 10 to the 1 is 10, so it would be 0, 1, 2, right? 10 to the 2 is 100, 10 to the 3 is 1,000, 10 to the 4, 10 to the 5, so on and so forth. So each one of these ticks is actually quite a large number, right? So we were spanning from essentially almost, I don't know, whatever this number was, 3,000 all the way up to, 50,000, and it's all really, really close together. So what we might want to do is instead of change this to 1, we might want to actually start this at 1,000. Right, something like that to spread it out, just so that you can see what's going on. Now, to change data, to change the plot types, just in case you want to, you can click these data points, and you can go in here on this fill option, and you can change your marker types to whatever you want. I don't really care for the lab, just as long as it's clear. And that's really what I want to see. So, like I said, that's how you put something on a logarithmic scale with the format axes. Is there anything else that you will need to do to plot this? I don't think so. And the only other thing, like I said, if you click this axis, this little symbol right here with the little square size and proportions, but this little thing with the bar is your axis. So just keep in mind, you want to keep it with your data, because if you have a spurious data point, Excel doesn't know. So if you have something like 0, it'll put 0 in here unless you go in here and manually change it or something like that. So you can zoom in the chart. And then to get this into a Word document, let me open a Word document here, a blank document. There's a couple of different options. One of the things you'll probably want to do to turn into the Word document is if you Command C, Command Copy, and go to your Word, and instead of just doing Command V, because what this does is this actually links it to the Excel sheet. So if I go in here and change one of these data points, let's just make this, I don't know, like 1,000, just to see what happens. So watching my Excel window, you'll see that data point moved up, and you'll actually see it will move up over here as well as soon as you refresh it. So you don't want to do that necessarily. You want to copy this thing, and then you want to right click, paste special, and you want to paste it as a picture or an image. Maybe on a Windows it might say JPEG or BMP or whatever, just as a picture. And so now this is actually an actual JPEG that's immovable. You can scale it, and you don't have any other options to change it. So you do all of the manipulation in Excel and you paste it into the Word document. So I hope that that will give you enough tips and tricks to complete the lab. Like I said, I just wanted to pick a real world data set. I thought we were going to be able to build the curves, but I would have had to download all of the reports and look up when the onset and first case was and all of that stuff. But it also gives you an insight to some of the stuff that you're seeing on the media, and where you can actually get the data. This is directly from the World Health Organization. But like I said, I hope this is there to supplement the lab. Manipulate the numbers. Remember, you can copy and paste those formulas. And remember, right-click delete kills your rows, and just using your delete key just deletes the numbers out of there. So we're going to actually be deleting data points out of your Excel sheet for the lab. So make sure you use right-click delete. And then that sort command is all very important. So I hope that helps. I look forward to seeing you guys. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm recording that today. But anyway, hope that helps. Talk to you later. Bye.